Boys and girls, allow me to introduce you to the artist Romero Britto. Romero Britto is an artist who's from Brazil. He's considered a neo-pop artist. That means he's a new popular culture style artist. He loves to create things that you see all around you, like Darth Vader and maybe even the Dalai Lama. Boys and girls, he loves to use bright, bold colors in his artwork. And this, boys and girls, is how he shows his feelings of happiness, like in this picture of Frida Kahlo. Romero Britto is not only a painter, but he's also a sculptor. Check out this incredible sculpture. Does it remind you of anything? If it made you think of Build-A-Bear, well, guess what? He has bears at Build-A-Bear too. We are going to create a self-portrait inspired by Romero Britto that will be beautifully colored and of you. All right, boys and girls, let's get started on our beautifully patterned and colorful self-portraits inspired by the artist Romero Britto. The first thing you're going to get is a sheet of paper. And once you have your sheet of paper, please make sure you write your name and teacher code on the back lightly in pencil so it doesn't show through to the front. The other thing you're going to need to do on the front of your paper is take a face template. We're going to use this because it will really help us figure out the correct size of our face. So you're going to want to place this probably about in the middle of your paper. If you are a boy and you don't have a lot of hair on the top of your head like some of us ladies, you might want to position this a little bit higher. That would give you a chance to show more of your neck and your shirt. However, if you'd rather show more patterns in the background, or maybe girls, if you want to add a bow or something in your hair, you might want to have your head oriented a little bit lower. So before you just set it on here and trace it, think about your composition, the placement of things. I kind of want to have enough room at the bottom and the top, so that's why I'm going for the middle. So I've got this placed in the middle. I kind of want my head tilted a little bit, so I'm just going to tilt that a smidge, and I've got my pencil, and I'm going to trace around it. And when I'm finished tracing around it, then I'm ready to start working on the face. But before I do, I'm going to go ahead and draw the lines for my neck. So now that I've got that finished, I'm going to draw 2 lines for my neck. And you know what I'm realizing is that it might be a little bit difficult for you to see. So even though you will be drawing with a pencil, I am going to draw with a Sharpie. You will be tracing over your pencil lines with a Sharpie, but to start, you'll want to draw with a pencil just in case you draw something that you're not happy with, and you can take care of it with an eraser. So I'm going to draw with a Sharpie. You will be drawing with a pencil. Now my next step is going to be to draw the neck. Your neck is 2 vertical lines that come down, and it helps to kind of draw them with your finger first so you know the placement of them. When you are using a pencil, and I'll do that for just a moment, make sure that you press lightly. Your pressure, how firmly you're pressing down with your pencil on your paper, should be very light, almost like you're tickling your paper. You can try that with your pencil on your hand when you get to your seat so you understand the amount of pressure you should use. You should never be pressing so hard that it hurts your hand. That can in turn hurt your paper, and it'll also make it more difficult if you need to erase. So I'm going to make a vertical line that comes down, and then another one that comes down. And I have no idea why I was using my pencil when I said I would use my Sharpie. Now, when you get ready to draw your shirt, you can draw your shirt a couple of different ways, but you want to show that your neck is not flat, but that it has form, that it's 3-dimensional. Your neck is actually like the form, if we were going to compare it to one, like a cylinder. So to show that, I'm going to make a curved line that goes down, over, and up. Down, over, up. Piece of cake. And then my next step will be to draw my shoulders. Your shoulders, a lot of times when people draw them, they draw them going up and then coming down. No, that's like if you're confused and you're shrugging your shoulders. I don't know what's going on, so my shoulders are up. No, your shoulders are actually more like a diagonal line, and they start at the base or the bottom of your neck. So I'm just going to draw that. You'll be using a pencil. Of course, I know I've said it 20 times, but I'm saying it again. I'm drawing with a Sharpie so that you can see. And you'll notice that sometimes it helps to rotate your paper so your hand can get to those parts of your paper a little easier. Now I've got my head, my neck, my shoulders. Now I'm ready to start drawing the parts of my face. It might help you to draw some lines to help you with your placement. When you draw these lines that help you with your placement, it's important that you draw them very lightly. So very lightly, I'm going to draw a line, and I'm using my pencil because these will be erased. I'm going to draw a line that goes right down the middle of my face. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see. Once you've got your line right down the middle of your face that's vertical, go ahead and draw another line. This one is going horizontally across your face. Just like that. And it's about in the middle as well. In fact, mine is a little bit above the middle. Just a little bit. Now this line right here, this is the center of your face, and you're going to be creating a portrait where you are looking straight ahead. And this is where your eyes will go. So starting on this line segment, I've got this line segment right here. I'm going to do it about 1 finger in. I'm going to make a nice big arch like this. That one actually might have been a little too big. And it's okay if you draw a couple of sketchy lines like me because we can always go back and erase them. Eyes are exactly 1 eye apart. So I'm going to use my fingers like calipers, like a measuring tool, and I'm measuring the width of my eye. I'm freezing my fingers. I'm going 1 eye apart, putting a dot there, and I'm going to measure that width of my eye, put another dot there, and that helps me know how big I should make my eye. And your eyes are the same on both sides. So I tried to make them as symmetrical as I could. Eyes are shaped like an ellipse. An ellipse is like a football shape. So I'm going to go down, over, and up. This is what's called the whites of my eyes, the white part of my eyes. And now that I've got that finished, I can draw my iris. My irises are circles. My irises are circles, but you might not see all of my iris because it might be in my eye or under my eyelid a little bit. And whatever I have on one side, I will also draw on the other. Your iris is the colorful part of your eyes. When somebody says, "What color are your eyes?" you're actually telling them the color of your iris. You have a pupil. The pupil is actually what you see with. A pupil can change its size. When it's dark in a room, your pupils get very large to take in as much light as possible. And when it's light outside on a sunny day, they shrink. They get very small. Now I've got this finished. I'm going to draw something called an eyelid. If you blink slowly, you're using your eyelids. An eyelid is a line that is parallel or doing the same thing to this top line right here. It's not way up there. That's an eyebrow. So I'm going to draw another one. Now, if you want to, because we all have them, but you don't have to, we all have eyelashes. They're very short hairs. We have them on the top and the bottom. And I'm just going to draw mine on the top, maybe a little on the bottom. You don't have to if you don't want to. They are coming from your eye, not your eyelid. So I'm adding just a couple of those. And now, and maybe some shorter ones on the bottom. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my eyebrows. Your eyebrows, they come up and they go down. And we're drawing this with a pencil, and we're making all of these look very similar. The problem with that is we don't all look very similar. And the reason we're drawing it with pencil is because when you get to your seat, you might want to look closely in the mirror and you might notice that your eyes are actually different. Your eyebrow shape is different. So when you go to your seat, change the drawing as you think you need to change it. Boys, my drawing right now is looking a lot like a girl because I'm drawing me. So when you look in the mirror, think about what you look like and how you'll need to change it. Our eyes are finished. Our next step is to work on the nose. So for my nose, I need to find the middle of this line segment from here to here. Looks like it's right about there. That's where my nose will go, so I just made a small mark. From here to here, this line segment, find the middle, and that's where my mouth will go. So now that I've got those, I'm going to go ahead and draw my nose, and I'm going to draw my nose like this. If you touch your nose, you'll notice that it comes away from your face. So I'm drawing a line that comes in and goes back out. It went in and it came back out. You might even want to draw it with your finger a couple of times. It doesn't go way over. It kind of goes in toward that center line and then comes back out. And then, of course, there's the side of your nose right here. So I'm going to add that. And now I can draw my lips. Now, there's a ton of different ways to draw your lips. I'm going to show you how. Why don't you just watch me so you can be thinking about how you want to draw your lips. So maybe let's just start with the center of the lip. And in fact, I think this line is a little bit low, so I'm going to erase it for me and make it a little higher. I'm going to draw the line that shows where my mouth opens. So I want to be smiling in my self-portrait, so I'm just kind of curving that up. Above here would be my top lip. Down there would be my bottom lip. Now I'm going to open the mouth a little bit. Actually, I'll just draw this line. If my mouth is closed, there's my bottom lip. There's my top lip. If I want my mouth open, I could add another line down there, and that would be my bottom lip. Now, there's all sorts of different kinds of ways you can draw your mouth. So if I were you, you could draw it now lightly with a pencil, but you could always change it when you're looking in the mirror and getting different ideas when you're at your seat. For your ears begin at the corner of your eye, and they end at the bottom of your nose. And they are not a perfectly curved letter C, because from your perspective or point of view, they are actually a more narrow C. So there's one, there's the other. Now, we're going to chat about hair. There's tons of different ways to draw your hair. You'll need to really look closely in the mirror to see exactly what your hair looks like. When I draw my hair kind of comes across my forehead, but I also have hair above my head. I have hair up here. So I'm going to add a couple of lines. This is kind of like a cartoon version of us, so I don't have to draw every line. I'm drawing a couple of sections of lines for my hair. So there's a couple of sections there. And just like that. And boys and girls, I'll have some idea sheets for you on your table to give you different ideas on how to draw your hair. The last thing we need to do before we start tracing over this with a Sharpie is we need to kind of connect some shapes on our face. So I'm going to draw a connecting line here. I'm going to draw a curved line there for my chin. If you want to, you don't have to, but if you feel like you want to be inspired by Romero Britto, he usually adds a shape for the cheek. I could just do one heart. I could do a circle. If I don't want to do either of those, that's okay. And now lastly, we need to break up the space in the background. So I'm going to break up the space. I'll add patterns on this side and patterns on that side. Maybe I'll break up the space on my shirt just by using a couple of lines. And inside of those sections, I'll be adding more patterns. Okay, now I'm going to trace over my lines with my Sharpie. All right, I'm all done tracing. Notice I did not trace over my directional lines. Those were only there to help me. Notice that my extra hand, my hand that doesn't know how to draw, is really helping hold my paper flat, because you've probably had it happen when you're erasing something and your paper gets torn because of that. So here's a trick. Hold your paper flat by spreading your hand out, or only push your eraser away from you. You could have it go in just one direction, or you can hold it still like I'm doing, and that allows you to rub back and forth. When you're finished erasing, then you can get out your Sharpie again, and this time you're going to be creating some patterns in the background. Those sections that now I'm ready to start adding some designs. And when you add your patterns and designs, you're going to have to color these in. So you might not want to make them so super duper and small, but you might want to have some patterns or designs that kind of reflect who you are and what your interests are. So right now in my hair, I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to draw some circles, part of the circles. I'm going to draw zigzag lines. But perhaps for my background or for my shirt, I can draw designs that showcase things that I'm interested in. For example, on this one, I think I'll draw blobs of paint. And if it makes you feel better to draw with a pencil first or to practice on a practice sheet of paper, please do so, because once you draw it with the Sharpie, you can't erase it. You can turn it into a beautiful oops, but you can't erase it. So just consider that. So because I'm the art teacher, I'm not sure if you know that or not, I am drawing some paint blobs in the background of mine. So I'm going to work on that. All right, now I'm done with my patterns and I'm ready to start adding color. You'll be using color pencils and art sticks to add your color. When you add your color, you'll probably want to test your colors out just to make sure you're going to be happy with them. There's nothing worse than being surprised about a color when it touches your paper. So get a piece of scrap paper so you can always test out those colors. Now, when I was working on mine, because my face is divided just like yours, you're going to need to pick two different colors that are your flesh tone. One might be a little bit darker to show shadow. That would give us a little bit of space in our artwork, which is an element of art. We've used quite a few elements of art. We've used line, shape. We're about to use color. We used form when we created this shape for our neck. Going to use lots of different values, and space is what we're going to be creating with a little bit of shadow. But you'll definitely want to test your colors out just to make sure you're happy with them. Let's talk about coloring our face. So you'll want to get a color that you feel like is good for your face. So don't forget to test it out. I'm just going to use this piece of scrap paper here. If I press pretty firmly, it totally changes the look of the color. It changes the value. I think I like this one a little better. It's not quite as orange as that one. So when you're coloring your face, you'll definitely want to pick one direction and kind of color in it. And you don't want to color every which direction. Of course, you'll want to do your best to stay in your lines. Good craftsmanship is always important when you're creating your work of art. And what that means for you is when you are coloring in a tight space, just slow down a pinch. If you're coloring a wide open space, your color pencil can go a little bit faster. Remember, if you press a little harder, it will change the value. So I'm going to work on coloring my face using different colors, changing the value with the pressure of my pencil, and then we'll talk about how we can go about coloring the background. All right, now that I'm done coloring my face, and I used a couple of different kinds of values. I used the same color here, but I just pressed harder to create a different value. You might have noticed I went back over this one a second time because I thought it looked too similar to this value. So I just went back over it and pressed a little bit harder. You don't even have to use the same color skin color. You could go with a totally different color, a darker color, or a lighter color if you want to. When you do your hair, you'll want to pick a couple of different colors that you see in your hair. So my hair sometimes in the sunshine looks blonde. It's mostly a couple of different kinds of brown. There's even a little bit of black color in my hair. So I'm going to pick out a couple of colors that will look really good in my hair when I start to color in those patterns. So when you color in your patterns for your hair, I'm going to put back all the ones I'm not using. You can, of course, do the same thing. Press really hard to create a nice dark value. You could go a little bit lighter. You could even use the same color in one space. But when you are coloring in a space, for example, I'm coloring in this space, and I have my pattern, the colors I'm using in this particular space, they don't change because that's what's going to make it look like a pattern. If I color my hair all different colors, like I will do my background, what will happen is my hair will blend in with the colorful background. So to make it look like hair, I'm still going to use my hair colors, but I'm not going to color it a bunch of different colors. It'll make it look too much like my background. So that's why I picked an assortment or a good variety of colors for my hair. And I remember saying that you can also use art sticks, but you might have noticed I haven't used those yet. The reason I haven't used them yet is because I wanted some smaller spaces filled in. But if you have some larger spaces, or if there's just a color you like, then you can use the art sticks. What I really love about art sticks is that the colors are a lot more bold and bright. So if you want bold and bright colors, you can switch to those. Just keep in mind that when you color with them, it's a little harder to get them into those smaller spaces. So now that I'm all done coloring my face, I've colored, excuse me, different designs in my hair. Now I can get really kind of crazy with color and use different colors for my patterns. Friends, when you do a different section though, remember that you're trying to create a pattern. So whatever color palette you decide upon, let's say I decide I want to use these kind of colors in this pattern, then those colors will repeat, and that's what creates the pattern. You don't want to use a bunch of different colors inside, so pick a color palette that you will repeat. So one thing I noticed while I was coloring was that if you use a lighter color for the background and a darker color for the shapes, what you can do is just, let's see, lighter color for the background. You can just take your color pencil and color the entire space, and that will be the background color. And it's a lot easier to do that than it is to go in between each one. If you then take a color that is darker than the color for your background, you can use that inside of the shapes. So that made that very quick. I didn't have to go in between each one of those. I'm going to take a color that's darker, like this purple, and I will color over it. Now, because there's already orange there, it does change the color of the purple a little bit, but it does make my coloring go a lot faster. If you're not sure how those two colors are going to look when you have one on top of the other, you could always try it out on your testing paper first to make sure you're still going to like that new color that it creates. So again, if you're going to fill in a space, and this time I'm going to rotate my paper because for me it's a lot easier to color when I'm always constantly turning it. So let's say I want to create a lighter color for my background for my music notes. Instead of coloring around them, I'm picking one direction and I'm filling in the whole thing. You want to make sure to go all the way off the edge so there are no white spots except for your teeth and the whites of your eyes. And now that I've got that almost completely filled in, I could even just use the same color that I'm currently using, but press harder to create a different value, which might be interesting as well. So one way to speed it up is to color the entire background with a light color, then go over the smaller shapes with a dark color. Remember to have your color pencils moving in the same direction. All right, so I'm going to work on finishing mine, and I'm so excited to see how amazing your beautiful, bright, and colorful self-portraits turn out for this project.